The D5100, 9 years later, is it still viable? Hey, what's up you guys? Nick here. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Nick. I'm a professional photographer. I've been shooting professionally for about 3 years now, though I've had a camera in my hand of some sort for the last 16 years. But as you can tell from the intro, today we're talking about this camera here, the Nikon D5100. Now, this is the camera I actually started shooting professionally with, or taking payments to shoot with. I've had this one for approximately 3 years now, and I've shot it almost to death. I bought this camera on eBay for $100, and the 5300 is still on eBay, body only, for between $75 and $200 depending on the shutter count. Now, as we discussed in our last video about buying used cameras, is you definitely want to make sure what the shutter count is versus the viability of how many shutter actuations you can get out of the camera before it dies. This one had a shutter count of 5,000 when I bought it, and the shutter's starting to slow down and die as we discussed in that video. I think I'm at about 75,000. Yeah, about 75,000 shutter actuations at this time, and you can definitely tell that the camera's starting to slow down and die. So the Nikon D5100 has a shutter count, a shutter viability of about 100,000 or so. But the important thing is the camera still viable in 2020? Now, this camera is still my backup camera. I use it while doing event photography, like at the Worlds Collide World's Fair, and I'll show a couple pictures from that I took with this camera, as well as car care for my work, where they invite people who have recently purchased a car to kind of an event, and I'll show some of those photos here. Now, the Nikon D5100 came out in April of 2011, so it's about 9 years old, almost a full decade old, but finding low shutter counts is still possible, and the reason for that is most people who buy a DSLR buy it for vacation, buy it for hiking, things like that, and they don't really shoot all that much compared to myself, who tries to go and shoot every day when possible. The lockdowns made that a little bit more difficult. So let's go over some camera specs, and then we'll talk about my feelings on the camera and my opinions on the camera. So like I said before, you can get camera bodies for anywhere between $75 and $200 depending on the shutter count, or if it comes with lenses, how many batteries, chargers, things along those lines. You can definitely find some really good deals on eBay for these. Now, it is 16.2 megapixels, which is the same as the Olympus EM10 mirrorless that we discussed in last week's video. And it is a crop sensor camera, not a full frame camera. Now, some of the features I do like about the 5100 is, like the 5300 that we're recording with and most of the 5000 series, is the LCD screen pops around. So it makes taking video a lot easier, being that I can look right there at the LCD screen and I know that I'm in focus right now, but also it allows me to shoot from different angles, so I can shoot from the hip, much like the twin lens reflex camera we discussed in this video, where I can look at my LCD screen here and see the viewfinder. Or if I'm not interested in the viewfinder, I can actually see all my settings, my ISO, my shutter speed, and my f-stop all right here, and make adjustments necessary. Now, what I like about this camera over some of the larger cameras that I've seen, the 7000 series and the full frames, is it is a much smaller profile camera. So you just have the one hand grip here. It's extremely light. Controls are easy to use one-handed, as everything is on this side. So shooting one-handed is simple. A lot of times when I carry this camera doing landscape or hiking photography, I don't use the neck straps. We all know I hate neck straps. We discussed that in the Jolly Look video, and I'll link that one up there. Overall, it's a pretty ergonomic design and it's easy to use. Now, this camera, like almost all Nikon SLR cameras, uses the F bayonet mount. So any of the old film lenses or any of the more modern lenses made by Nikkor, Tamron, or Sigma work just fine on this, or the Yongnuo 50mm. The batteries on the 5100 are interchangeable with the 5300 and I believe the rest of the 5000 series cameras, which is really nice. That's one of the reasons I went with a 5300 over a 7300, is because the batteries were interchangeable. I didn't know, and I still don't know, if the 7000 series cameras have interchangeable batteries with the 5000 series cameras, but I wanted to make sure that my batteries were interchangeable so I had less things to carry around and less things to worry about. Now, this one will shoot video in 1080. It's a lower frame rate. I didn't have a lot of good luck with it, which is why we started filming with the 5300 over the 5100. The video quality, it's okay. I still stand by what I said in last week's video, where I believe that Canon does much better when it comes to video than Nikon does, but the number of lenses available to me through Nikon is definitely a bonus on that side. But as a photographer's camera, I think that the 5100 series is actually a really fantastic camera. I think it's still viable. If I found a really good deal on one with a low shutter count, I wouldn't think twice about buying it. Actually, the one I found for 60 bucks on eBay, I might order just the body only. It had like 10,000 shutter count or something along those lines. So absolutely, I do believe that the Nikon 5100 is a viable camera in this day and age. Out of 10, I would probably give it an 8 just because the video is harder. It is an older camera and it is a lower megapixel than the 5300s, which aren't that much more expensive. Even the 5600s you can pick up with some lenses and batteries for about $400 to $500. So the 5000 series Nikons are fantastic. The 5100 has treated me extremely well, and I do want to go over some photos that I've taken with this one. Now this photo here, it may look familiar, and that's because this one was from the same set that we took in the cemetery with Starla that I actually shared with those other photographers in my video where I broke a cardinal rule of photography and I allowed a bunch of photographers to edit my images. As you can see, it's really nice, it's beautiful, it's detailed, it's a really sharp, good photo. Even at 16 megapixels, you don't really see the quality difference in that until you really start blowing them up. This camera does really good at capturing color, which I've found a huge difference compared to my D70, which we did do a video with here on my $200 portrait challenge. This photo here, which is actually of Coda, again, same cemetery, different look. You're probably familiar with this image. This one was also taken with the Nikon D5100. It is a very colorful and vibrant photo. Again, it does great in daylight. Let's actually move to something done indoor. This one is of Valerie. We're kind of going for like a spring vibe last year, so we got a little bit of those lilacs and the Christmas lights, and Valerie's laying there, and it is a much more paler and more soft image, again achieved with the Nikon D5100. All three of those images were taken with the Nikon D5100 and the 50mm 1.8 Yongnuo, which I did a review for right here. The manual mode on this is really easy to learn and really easy to use. It is very bright and well lit on the back of this LCD screen, as I will show you guys right now. So on the back here, you'll have your f-stop to show what the aperture is, your shutter speed, and then the number of the f-stop. Then your ISO is on your corner right here. Now this isn't a touch screen on the back, which is nice because when you have it flipped around and you look through it, you don't have to worry about your nose pushing any buttons. I actually ran into that problem with a Canon camera that I was using, where my nose was pushing the buttons on the back of the camera and my settings kept getting messed up. So this one actually has a setting in the back where you can actually set different filters to make your images softer, warmer. You can add a red filter, a blue filter, a monochrome filter, make it softer, intensify different colors, things along those lines that allow you to do a lot of tricks inside the camera that you would normally have to do in post-processing to allow that image. With this one, you can take JPEG, RAW, or JPEG plus RAW, where you can take any types of those photos. I do recommend shooting in RAW for everything just because it gives you more abilities to edit in the end. Now, one of the differences between this one and a professional grade full frame is you only have one slot for an SD card. On the professional full frames, you either have 2 slots for SD cards or an SD card and a compact flash. It's so that you have redundancies and backups. So if you're doing a big event shoot or you're doing something like a wedding or anything like that, if one of your cards becomes corrupted, you're still capturing images on another card. That is one of the disadvantages of using the D5100 as a professional camera, and I've actually learned that lesson the hard way. Overall, I think for a beginner camera or a first camera, the Nikon D5100 is a really cheap and easy way to get into photography if you don't already have a camera. Or if you have a 3000 series and you kind of want to up your game and give yourself some more options and more capabilities with your camera, the 5000 series cameras are fantastic and the 5100 is great. I do give this camera 8 out of 10 stars. It has been a really good camera to me. I've had it for 3 years now. Ever since I started shooting professionally, I jumped from the D70 to the 5100, and then I actually replaced this as my main body back in August or September when I picked up the 5300 that we're recording on this right now. So next week I'll actually be doing a video review on the Nikon D5300, and we'll talk a little bit more on the differences and the details and the differences of the back screen. So I thank you guys again so much for joining me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you know exactly when I upload. My collaboration for the glass of water shoot is still open, so if you would like to take a dramatic and awesome photo of a glass of water, feel free to email it to me at nalunablog@gmail.com. Give me some links if you want me to include any links to your portfolio, to your YouTube channel, anything like that. If you are a visual artist, feel free to draw or paint one. Go ahead and send that to me. I'll probably be doing that video at the end of April, the beginning of May, somewhere along those lines, so that collaboration is open. So thank you guys again so much. You have a wonderful night, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye.